Okay, welcome to Into the Channel, a podcast primarily about women's football. Real quick, before we hit the pitch, if you enjoy the show or love women's football as much as we do, we invite you to follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to watch or listen. Ratings and reviews, always appreciated. At ITC_pod on X, at Into the Channel pod on Threads. It's a Champions League week, my good sir, which means for many of us, maybe a little baby dip in productivity come midday Wednesday, trickling into, let's call it late afternoon Thursday. I am your host, Dino De Cespedes, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Grant Engel. What is up, man?
Buddy, we're back. Look, I like the Nations League games. Those were interesting. I like national team football. They were high stakes. We talked about it. You gave us a great breakdown on the last episode. Anybody should check that out if they're interested in how the new format looks. But from my perspective, club football, where you can take this mishmash of players from different countries and different upbringings, different nationalities, and put them together to play club football, and then especially Champions League football. I just think it's the best thing that the sport has to offer. And so I'm obviously super psyched that we're back.
100%. I do want to rewind just a little bit. You brought up the Nations League, so I wanted to tie a quick bow on that. First off, congrats to the Netherlands, France, Germany, and Spain, who all won their groups. France will be joined by two of either Spain, Germany, or the Netherlands in next summer's Olympics. And in the much ballyhooed relegation playoffs that we nerded out on last week, Belgium, Iceland, and heavyweights Norway and Sweden all landed in those relegation playoffs, where those four teams will be matched up against Hungary, Croatia, Serbia, and the team from Bosnia and Herzegovina to see who stays in League A for Euro qualifiers. And with regard to relegation, Scotland, Wales, Switzerland, and Portugal all out of here, replaced by Ireland, Finland, Poland, all the Lunds, and Czechia, also known as the Czech Republic. But I think you nailed it. We are back. The UEFA Women's Champions League. Oh, and does it feel great to be back? Matchday 3, and a loaded Matchday 3 it will be. Let's talk about the four matchups happening in Groups A and B, as well as who's trending up, who might be trending down, good form, bad form, all that good stuff. None of that bad stuff. Mr. Grant Engel, where do you want to get started?
I will not be limited by the constraints of the traditional alphabet. So let's start with Group B, because I think it has the matchup that I'm looking forward to most on Wednesday. I'd be curious to hear where you land on this. But we have Juggernauts Lyon playing SK Brann from the beautiful country of Norway. They're both sitting on 6 points. Brann has looked really impressive. Lyon has looked like, what's a fair way to describe it? A complete flying death machine. Pretty much always, whether we're talking about the Champions League, whether we're talking about their players playing for the national teams, or we're talking about Division Une Feminine, Lyon always looks great. So I am very much looking forward to this match, and I'm curious what you're expecting to see when these two teams lock up on Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah, this one is in my top two with regards to matches I'm excited about.
Yep.
You called it out last week, the Daniela Van de Donk sort of like knock that she took. So she wasn't in the lineup in Lyon's win over Lille. In that one that they won 5-0 on Friday, Wendy Renard got Lyon started by heading one off the post, only to smash home the rebound. Shades of Tracy McGrady lobbing an alley-oop to himself off the backboard. 2002 NBA All-Star game, just because they could.
Sure.
You mentioned it, Lyon simply dominating the season in Division Une Féminine. 5 points, 5 points clear of second place Paris FC. An unblemished 30 points in 10 matches in league play, 45 goals for, just 4 against. They're playing great football right now. Wait, you mentioned Juggernauts plural. If you were talking about Lyon, I thought you were going to throw Brann in the Juggernaut category, which, I mean, no arguments here. They've definitely been playing real big this tournament so far. They're both on 6 points. You look at the goal differential, though. Lyon sitting at a very robust plus 11. Brann just plus 2 after 2 matches. I'll really be looking for a rested Brann side to get a little physical with Lyon and see how the French side responds. Wendy Renard on the other side, though, she might welcome that kind of matchup. But either way, that might seem like Brann's best bet here.
I like that. I think, with the Norwegian league, we see it with these Scandinavian leagues, the Swedish league as well. They're done. They have to get the season over with before the winter gets real dark and bleak up there in that part of the world. So now we have our classic. We love a good sports cliche, rest versus rust. Let's go. So
yeah.
like you mentioned, Lyon just destroys Lille 5-0 on Friday. A lot of the players for Brann, a couple of them made national team appearances, but their last match was that 1-0 win over Slavia Praha in the Champions League on November 22nd. So we're looking at damn near a month since the club has
Wow.
played a competitive match. There's some kind of joke we could insert here that Lyon doesn't play a lot of competitive matches either, considering they just stomp everybody. But I digress. I think we had talked a little bit about a couple shows back in Brann's win over Praha. They held possession. They tried to move the ball around. I wouldn't be surprised if they might try to sit back a little bit in spots. Maybe they try to throw some change-ups in there. It's like maybe we'll try to hold the ball. We'll try to attack on some spots, and then maybe we'll sit back and see how the counter plays for us. I mean, this could be let's just try to feel this out while this game is in France, and then we're going to save our kitchen sink stuff for when Lyon comes into Norway later in the stage.
Yeah, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. The fact that they are already on 6 points, they got to be feeling pretty good. And this one is obviously the hardest match of the 6 that they'll face at Lyon.
Yep.
So I'm interested to see how they play it, whether they kind of come out really swinging or if they come out maybe a little conservative and try to grab a result.
One thing I do want to look out for is their goalkeeper, Mikkelsen. She gave up 2 goals in the last match in the Nations League for Norway. I just want to see how aggressive is she going to be. This is going to be her toughest test to the group by far. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see how she responds in this one.
So a lot to look out for. Like we mentioned, this one going down Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Let's go ahead. Bottom of the group, St. Polten, Slavia Praha. This one is kicking off the slate Wednesday, 12:45 p.m. Eastern, 9:45 a.m. out where you're at. What are you looking for in this matchup?
Well, yeah, I think STP, they're coming off an encouraging 2-0 loss to Lyon, which I think, might sound silly to say a 2-0 loss is encouraging, but if you manage to only lose 2-0 to Lyon, then I think that's actually something to take some things away from.
Yeah, no doubt.
On the other side, you have Praha. They lost 1-0 to Brann. Now, I think we talked about last time that maybe Brann was kind of coasting a little bit in that match. They seem to look like a fairly superior team. But if you're Praha, you're not a bullshit team. You've been in this tournament before. You were in it last year, and they dominate their home league. They're going to come into this and say, hey, if we're gonna start racking up some points here, it's going to have to happen in this game. So I do think that this is probably going to be a gotta have it. I think this one should be pretty aggressive on both sides.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. A little interesting look inside the numbers here. So Praha slightly better XG differential than STP. Praha is sitting at minus 2.6, almost a full goal better than STP's minus 3.5. If you thought Lyon's record domestically was impressive, Slavia Praha is no slouch either. Also on 30 points after 10 matches, 48 goals for, 1 goal against. One goal. Champions League, obviously a different beast, but Slavia Praha certainly not used to having to play from behind or having to play maybe from a talent disadvantage. I am kind of looking for Slavia Praha to kind of turn it on, even though this one is at St. Polten on Wednesday. With 4 group stage matches still left to play, I bet we see a really spirited effort from both sides, like you mentioned. And I feel like each of these teams might be looking at that bronze side and saying, all right, well, if their result is lopsided at Lyon and we can grab 3 points here, and each of these teams still has at least one match against Brann coming up where they might be able to turn that one into a 6-pointer as well. Still not out of it. I think this match is going to be the one to watch with regard to figuring out who might stick around the longest in this group.
Yeah, I mean, if you're STP in this spot, you're like, okay, we only have a -3 goal differential. Brann's goal differential is just +2. So if we absolutely come out here and stomp Praha, we put ourselves right back in the mix. And you raise a really good point. If it gets away from Brann and they lose 4-0 to Lyon, which I think is live, as much as I am, full disclosure, huge in the tank for Brann. Love the way they play, love the way the stadium looks. The fans seem super cool. Way in the tank for Brann, but I think it would be silly to not think that, a 4-0 or a 3-0 loss to Lyon is on the board here. So if you're Polten, you're just looking at this and going, okay, maybe we try to ratchet it up. But like you said, the flip side of that is it goes sideways. Praha finds a good run of form, and they have that troubling -10 goal differential because of the 9-0 stomping they took at the hands of Lyon. But you get a win and you pick up those 3 points. Now we're looking at a different kind of scenario.
Yeah, for sure. And, goal differential still is the tiebreaker. So, I mean, if
Yep.
they could string some wins together, they certainly have the firepower. This one is the match that I think, sends one team home and maybe catapults the other team into this Group B mix. We'll see. Still a lot of matches that you kind of forget that there's still 4 group stage matches to be played.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's fast forward a bit to Group A. This is the group that's the home to our reigning champions, Barcelona FC. But we're going to start with an intriguing match between 2 squads desperately fighting it out for second place and a spot in the quarterfinals, and that would be Benfica hosting Eintracht Frankfurt. This one going down Wednesday, 3 p.m. in Lisbon. So basically, if it's going to happen for Benfica, it certainly feels like it's got to be now. They notched a home win over Rosengard, but that was probably their most winnable game of the group stage, so they had to get it. This one against Eintracht Frankfurt, like we mentioned, will be played in Portugal. And yeah, with their razor-thin win 1-0 last time out against Rosengard, and Portugal kind of flaming out of the Nations League. Do not pass go, do not collect $200 straight to League B. You sort of feel like this is a spot where Benfica might be able to kind of like make a stand. After this one, they go to Frankfurt to run it back, then away at Rosengard before finishing at home against Barca. So they absolutely need this one. Frankfurt, on the other hand, had that great showing against Barca, winning the first half before ultimately eating a lethal 3-punch combo from the champs. Then they followed that up with a solid 3-1 win at home over Hoffenheim, thanks to goals from forwards Laura Prasnikar, Nicola Nyomi, and Shakira Martinez, or Martinez for our UK audience, who came on in the 89th for Nyomi and scored 2 minutes later. So I don't know, man. This Frankfurt team looking very sharp at the moment, looking like it might be a tall task for that squad from Benfica.
Hard to take too much of a victory lap on Nyomi, like we're some kind of like brilliant experts, but she looks like she's good to score pretty much every match. So I was psyched to see her get on the score sheet against Hoffenheim. I'm waiting to see her score a Champions League goal or 2. Love the energy. Constantly in attack mode. Will press too, which I really like out of a forward. She is not shy about going after the defenders, going after the keeper when they're on the ball. So if you're Frankfurt in this spot, if you get the full 3 points off of Benfica, you can really kind of create some space. If you do it in Portugal, especially, the next time you got to see them is going to be in Germany, and you can feel a little better about it. So I think we're going to have Frankfurt walking in full confidence, and then Benfica walking in with, at worst, we got to get a point out of this. So look for like Jessica Silva to be like streaking on the attack. You got to score a goal. If you're going to draw Frankfurt, you got to get at least one. So I would expect probably a pretty open match in this one too.
Yeah, I think that's what we're looking at. And I kind of feel like a point, I think they would be disappointed by that. Depending on, okay, there's different kind of ways to kind of like get a point.
Sure.
You claw your way back. That's a little bit better for the morale. But they got to be looking at this one and saying we need all 3, just because it gets real tricky having to go to Frankfurt. Still Barcelona left in that 6th match of the group stage. And, they just haven't looked great, right? So they're probably looking to themselves to be like, well, what's our ceiling here? Like, what's the best that we can kind of put forward? Because if it's not in this match, it might just be a wrap. If Frankfurt looks like the better team, we talked about kind of like the mental aspect of the game and actually we talked about it with regard to this Frankfurt team and what Barcelona did to them.
Yep.
When Pariuelo scores that first goal and the whole mood shifts, we spent the whole first half being like, oh shit, like Frankfurt's going to do it, and like it just was night and day from that moment. And I think real vibes as well, if Frankfurt's able to kind of control this one and kind of like big sister, little sister, this Benfica team, knowing that the next one's going to be in Germany.
Yeah, you raise a good point. If you're Benfica, you probably are disappointed with 1 point. Like you said, though, unless you claw it back and you're able to save 1 point. But yeah, you got to hope for the win. You can't just count on beating Rosengard twice. No disrespect to Rosengard, obviously, but like that's not going to be enough for you to make it through.
Well, I suspect Frankfurt's going to get them twice too. Frankfurt's going to beat Rosengard twice too. So that math doesn't quite check out for them.
Yep.
But we'll see. I'm super pumped to watch this one. This one's going down Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. And this one's going to be, I think it's going to be a little testy.
Oh, yeah.
Based on what happened in Nations League and kind of like what the group stages look like thus far for them. The other match, this one's going to be tough. Rosengard hosting the champs Wednesday, 12:45 p.m. Eastern. I don't know, man. What else can we say about this freaking Barcelona side? They're an absolute buzzsaw. Also unblemished in Liga F. 33 points in 11 matches. Also in 11 matches, 14 different goal scorers.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back and looked at the Men's Premier League, a league that you and I follow pretty closely. Yep. All those teams have played 16 games. No team has 14 different goal scorers. 16 games versus 11. Arsenal has 13. Liverpool has 12 goal scorers. Manchester City 9. Aston Villa 9. Those are the top 4 scorers. So no team in 5 more games has 14 goal scorers. Barcelona is just absolutely loaded. I think there's other big teams in this tournament that look special. But when I watch Barca, I just continue to believe that everybody else might be playing for second place. On the other side of this one, Rosengard sitting on 0 points after 2 matches. Both of those matches against teams not named Barcelona. So there's that. Mm-hmm. Wednesday night, low of 27 degrees Fahrenheit, by the way, which is -3 Celsius. Fahrenheit, Celsius, doesn't matter. That's pretty fucking cold. A frigid night and a block of ice as a pitch might be Rosengard's best shot in this one.
Yeah, that's a nice nugget there. I mean, we talked about, Real Madrid being uncomfortable in the cold conditions during match day 2. So what, if you're Rosengard, it's just, okay, we're going to hit you. We're going to foul you. We're going to muddy this game up as much as possible. Even with all that said, I mean, what do you say? Like, you're handicapping this, not to get too gambling heavy, but Barcelona -5.5.
I was at 4.5 mentally, but 5.5 plays. I think so.
Yeah.
That 27 degrees -3 Celsius, that might give me a little pause.
That's true. To highlight your point, I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong though, like we've talked about Barcelona as its own flying death machine. You talk about all the different goal scorers. I feel like we haven't even been able to talk much about Esme Brutes. And she had a hat trick on Saturday. There are just so many good players to talk about that, like, what are you even going to do? And so in that 5-0 win, Brutes gets the hattie, and then your favorite player, Caroline Graham Hansen, and then 20-year-old Ariana Araya, they each added a goal for good measure. So doesn't matter what age you are, doesn't matter what position you play. If you play for Barcelona, you're likely one of the, at worst, 35 best players in the world, it feels like.
Yeah.
And they're just going to put up a bunch of goals. I just don't know. It's almost rude to expect too much from Rosengard in this one.
Set to see how things go. I think the cold might just be, I think they're hoping that, they somehow can tick it down a little colder. I mean, what do you do against this side? You mentioned Esme Brooks. If you didn't see her World Cup goal for the Netherlands, do yourself a favor, fire up the YouTube, because she hit an absolute screamer. It was one of the goals of the tournament. She just has a cannon. And I was excited to see her, especially, after she got sniped in that first match by Alexia Putellas. Talk about that one later. All right. Anything else to hit Group A, Group B?
No, I think that's it. I think we covered it. I'm just excited to watch it. No more prognosticating from us. We don't need to make any predictions. Let's just fucking watch it and see how they play out.
I love it. No, and Yomi anytime goal scorer? No, it's good.
I haven't found the odds yet.
Tweet at us if you find it. All right, man. I think we did it. Group A, Group B matches in the books. This has been another episode of Into the Channel. Follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to watch or listen. Ratings and reviews, always appreciated at ITC_pod on X, at Into the Channel pod on Threads. Big thank you to my co-host, Mr. Grant Engel.
Looking forward to the games. I'll see you for Groups C and D.
Let's do it. Stay warm.
You too.